Hello, duckies and dice fiends. Welcome on in to the Chaotic Wholesome Presents Table Talk Show. We have some Gilmore here today. I don't know how well he's showing up. He is very moody. It's very cold. We're both grumpy. We've got Chris Can hanging out. We've got Vivian. We've got DC. Welcome on in. Thanks for hanging with us today, y'all. We are discussing a topic that was brought up by a friend of the channel, David Tilstra. But before we get into that, David, who the heck is you, and what the heck is you doing here? Hey, Rex.
I'm trying really hard not to say a thing. Hi, this is the Chaotic Wholesome Presents show where we talk about things on Tuesday on tables, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better person, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better goblin, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
And I'm Kay. I'm here doing this also. You can find me tomorrow over at Goblin Cave TV playing the circus game with my Little Pony Tiefling. You could find me not this Thursday. Normally on Thursdays I stream, but this Thursday is the U.S. holiday of Thanksgiving. And I will be eating too much food with friends, so I will not be streaming. Tuesday on tables. All right, which one of you is on the table? I think we both know it's David.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
However,
and what a load-bearing table it is.
However, where you can find David on Friday is right back here, playing Disco Elysium.
Yes.
Which David quite enjoys. Friday, you can find me before that playing Girl by Moonlight, and then again on Sunday, where I'm doing Kinley over on Tavernall's channel. I'm playing the time-traveling Thembo, who's maybe going to save the world? Or die. They're not... Kinley got a number. It was less of a number and more of an address after dark by the docks, and so they're not sure if it's a date or if they're going to be killed. So they've considered both.
Poor Los. Yeah. Also, if Kinley saves the world, I have a strong feeling that that's just by accident.
I mean, they are trying, but that doesn't mean that's how it's going to work out. So yes, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you everyone on Twitch, everyone watching on YouTube. Y'all, we are 2 YouTube subscribers from 200. So thank you all so much. But we want to talk about starting a campaign because there's kind of a history of how campaigns start. And we are literally talking about, like, not how do you plan, where do you, like, no, literally. Your game, your campaign, your one-shot opens. Where physically are your characters? Where are they at? Now, in old school, in the days of yore that we do not really speak of, it was always at the mouth of the dungeon, because the entire point of that era of D&D was show up, murder a bunch of things, rescue a lady type, ideally make off with a whole bunch of gold and treasure, because that was how you leveled up, was just treasure. And then you'd wander back and celebrate, and one of you would probably get married. But those days have changed. We are no longer... I
wonder how many times PvP broke out when they couldn't agree on who could end up with the woman.
Those are statistics I would love to know.
I wonder in, like, 1982, did people just, like, haphazardly stumble their way into polyamorous relationships by sharing a lady NPC who probably would have wanted nothing to do with them in the first place?
I feel like
so many questions.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that... Anyhow, then there was a sudden shift in things. And suddenly, TTRPGs were a lot more about... Now, there was still a lot of dice rolling. There's still a lot of bonking. There's still a lot of shenanigans. There's still a lot of math. But a shift came, and it is now a lot more RP-focused and character-focused and growth and interaction and, you know, things other than roll dice, go bonk, do it again. And so most campaigns started in a tavern. And don't get me wrong, a tavern's a great place to start your campaign. A tavern is where campaign 2 of Critical Role started. Taverns are a great place. But they're not the only place. And we have started campaigns in a couple interesting places. We've started games in some interesting places. And we have heard of some wild starts, and we want to talk about that.
And also, like, full disclosure, like Kay said, friend of the channel, Tilstra originally posted this on Twitter. Yes. I specifically have not looked at the Twitter thread. Oh, hi, Cake Tease.
Hey,
thank you for the
so
resub.
Much, Cake. You are wonderful. wonderful. I hope you're feeling better.
I hope your hair is at least a percentage as curly as mine. But I specifically have not looked at the Twitter thread just to make sure that I don't like the idea has already, but I don't want to steal a bunch of like locations from the people who posted in a thing.
And again, it doesn't necessarily have to specifically be a location. There can also be like occasions, but yes, we want to hear, and we want to hear from you too, chat. We're going to talk, but we're keeping up the chat. We're watching what y'all are saying because I still sound like Tom Waits, but I'm doing okay. Poor Cake had strep throat.
Are you trying to seduce me? Is what you're saying?
So, the tavern is generally traditionally the new modern meeting place. David and I infamously started Godplane in the middle of a quasi PvP. You 4 to 5 have no idea where you are. There is a potentially dead person at your feet. Oh, and you can't understand each other. You are all speaking common, and you cannot understand each other. So that's fun. That's real fun.
Yeah, I think in my notes I described it as a. Hold on, let me click on the thing.
Interdimensional.
Extraplanar null space is what.
Planetary. Sorry.
But yeah, an extraplanar null space. And I know Candace has played a couple of games that started in high school, which makes me want to vomit. Like, the game was excellent, just the idea of being inside of a high school makes me want to take the long nap, to yeet myself off of a bridge. Other miscellaneous euphemisms. Because,
hey, Mallory.
ooh-wee.
Yeah, the two of us do not ever need to revisit high school. Will for only the absolute perfect exact thing, but I don't need to. I when Strixhaven came out, I got to play in a Strixhaven game, and I was like, okay, so is this like magical high school or magical college? Because one of those is way more stomachable for me. Also, I know we are all grown and consenting adults here, but I don't necessarily want to be playing with 16-year-old characters. Certainly not 14-year-old characters.
Yikes.
It was all good. Everyone was on the same page. We're like, no. People might die on this adventure, so therefore they are not children.
I mean,
look,
I'm not gonna say anything about that. Just catch me in some like after dark setting in a lonely bar on my 8th whiskey, whiskey with no microphones around, and I will tell you precisely what tragedy should be visited upon high schoolers.
My official stance is just stop making literal children save the world. And I think Stephanie rants about this a lot too. Just stop making literal children save the world. It's cool. We can let adults, even young adults, save the world. Cool with that. But
I have spent too many internet pixels, and I think that's enough words for me to create something out of context.
That's Kato the Chaos Gremlin is here, and we are so happy. We got everyone in the house tonight. Thanks, y'all.
Right? Yeah, I'm glad everybody's here. But I have spent too long talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion to the point whereby people mistake that for my favorite anime, which it is not. I wouldn't even argue it's like my top 5, but it is very good. And one of the things that it does a good job of doing is highlighting how just completely asinine and brain dead and twisted and evil it is, forcing children to save the world.
Yeah. But now this is a perfect segue for one of the settings I wanted to talk about. Kato is here, and Kato I am retelling one of Cato's stories because it is one of my favorites. And I am not going to lie, I am likely going to steal this for a game at some point. Like, it is 100% going to be like, I am stealing this from Cato, who played it. Like, this is an idea from Cato's DM, whom I have never met, but I'm taking it. It belongs to me now. Cato had a game which began the party met at a funeral. And they were all settled around the table after the funeral, having drinks. And they look and they're like, who was the deceased to you? And they're like, oh, it was my dad. And then someone else is like, no, that's my dad. And then the other was like, no, it's my dad. The entire party are half siblings. And the one who died was the horny bard. And that is so brilliant. And I know I've told this before, but it is one of my favorite things. Dungeons and Bastards. Yes. Yes. Like, if you are going to use this, if you're going to make this, we're going to lean into the trope, lean into the trope. That's what I was trying to say. I don't know why I couldn't get there.
Brain just short-circuited.
Yeah, I saw.
I was hi Candace.
Hello,
You
Candace.
caught me while I was trying to have three thoughts in my head at the same time, and it did not work at all. Like, not even a little bit. But
You took notes.
I did take notes. Cool places. Ooh, actually, like my first thought when I saw starting a campaign in a spa is doing it like a Japanese like onsen and making it a murder mystery. I think that would be super duper cool. But no, much like Tilstra, I have started a number of campaigns in jail. You wake up, you're locked up. Partly because you want to be a half ooze, tell us the story. That's your price of admission.
Look. All I have to say is this happened. This happened. Yes, I played a David one shot where we began in jail.
Yes, and that had ramifications further along down the line. But yeah, so depending on what system you're running, character creation can be robust and intensive and time consuming. And so I came up with you don't need dice 5e campaign. Well, rather you only need a d20. Half ooze, half dwarf, all vigilante. But yeah, where you only need a d20 because there are no attack rolls. There's like no no, there are damage rolls. Anyway, the idea is you don't need a whole lot of infrastructure. You don't need character sheets. That's what you don't need. So you need dice, but you don't need character sheets because all your stats are 9 and your class is commoner. And so everything is like a -1. So like dex save, -1. Will save, -1. Charisma check, -1. Everything. A booze ooze.
Cake says start a game in a fantasy DMV.
Also a murder mystery. Except everyone is a suspect.
Gilmore would like you all to know that he is purring. Oh my god.
But the whole idea is you wake up in a jail cell because you were selling magic mushrooms, and one of the person, the NPC who was not amongst you, turned you in so that he could steal the rest of the magic mushrooms. And the wizard is like, "Hey kids, you want to get out of here?" And then the adventure begins, and it's all about like breaking out of the jail, sneaking or fighting your way past a bunch of guards, and then getting the hell out. And on average, it takes between 2 and 3 hours to complete the adventure, which is usually like, especially if you're doing like a 3.5 or like a Pathfinder 1 character creation, is about how long that takes. So yeah, that is a good way to start a. It was Jess in the kitchen with the big knife.
DC says he once started a campaign with an explosion at a dock, and another with the characters falling from the sky. We just did that in something it wasn't the campaign, but we started a game where it was like, hey, you've been gone a second. You're falling. It's very fun to just be like, no, you're falling. Oh, can I? Nope, you're just falling.
Oh yeah, we had an episode start that way. Right. With the thing that will be announced in the future.
Yeah, at a time, at an undisclosed time. Yes, Jess says if you run into these murder mysteries, she has to be invited.
Fair. Super.
And I'm just saying, if you're at PAX Unplugged,
right,
we're gonna be there's hopefully, if I can get my act together between now and then.
We got it. It'll be figured out.
We'll be doing some play testing for a thing, and all I'm gonna say is fantasy fast food joint.
Yeah. Well, is it fast food?
For the purposes of just the very light teaser. Okay, we're not going to talk. Okay, PAX Unplugged is the first, and we're not going to talk about how soon that is, because if we talk about how soon that is, then Damphy is just going to. We're not saying that. We're not saying that, Jess, because if we say just how soon that is, Damphy's just going to have a really hard time of things. If I acknowledge how close it is and how little time we have, I'm just going to melt. Absolutely, Rex. And I know that you can eat your way through any game. Finger reference, I'm in a campaign that has a lot of lore based on Arby's. I tried so hard to get David the Arby's dice.
Oh man, it's still
it is not in 10 minutes.
That it even exists.
I tried real hard to get David Arby's dice. That's all I wanted. But I know we talked about this briefly, we mentioned this briefly before, and Mallory talked about, which is a very, very sweet, and there are pros and cons, goods and bads to this, and Mallory likes to kind of start with a little spotlight on each of the characters. Where is your character? What are they doing? What is their normal state? Which is excellent for establishing kind of background and establishing character. I can't say we. I tend to not entirely do that. Simply because I want to start hurling grenades at my players as quickly as possible. I want to get immediately into the action, and then we can roll back. So in fact, if you watched campaign 2 of Godplane, we started with everyone just you're 4 standing here. There's potentially a dead woman between you. What do you do? And then we rolled back. We did the opener, and then we cut back, and we're okay, Bo, you're here. What are you doing? Because I really enjoy I forget the Latin, but like in the middle of it.
Oh, in medias res.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm like in have lost words. Because it's a little bit of a tear because I'm like, GM, get out of the way and let the players play. Let characters, let your players shine. But I also really like to kind of rush the audience into, this is the team dynamic. This is what you're here for. Cool. We on board? Now here's a look at each one individually. That is me. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. That is why I tend to start with this. When we did ponies, we started at Journey Tinderheart's house, and everyone showed up one by one, and that was hilarious because Eugenio is a character who understands comedic timing. And so what could have been just a very sweet standard ended up being hilarious because Eugenio, and then everyone, especially Candace, being like, okay, well, nope, there they go. That's what he does. So I love starting campaigns when you're doing something, not necessarily combat, but something that needs a roll. Yes, I love get in, roll the dice. Let's start seeing how this is going. Okay, does this character building through action can exist in a game? Absolutely. Stress the characters, unveil what they would do instinctually. I like it. I agree. Unfortunately, as at least 3 of us here know, you put David, Cato, and I together in a campaign, our characters might instinctually start a war and burn down the command tent.
Yep.
And then nope off and watch everything burn from the mountains. Oops.
I have played multiple games with Kay and Cato. One in which we were all players, one in which I was the GM, and the level of unexpected.
Poor Dane's campaign.
Yeah. Rip poor Dane's campaign. Ooh, had no. But to be fair, nothing encounters a Cato combo like
and then
left
David
jab,
just
right
feeds
hook.
the K fire.
Yes.
David's like, oh, K's being a menace. I'm gonna make it worse.
Yes. Let's see. Let me. I'm.
You're having trouble focusing.
Yeah, it's South Asian chap. He is not South Asian. He is aggressively Irish. I think he's first generation Irish. Either like his mom or grandma is from Ireland. So he's not like, and like keep in mind there are different like varieties of Irish in the United States because there's Irish from Ireland.
Yeah.
There's Boston Irish, which is its own thing. Like New England, Boston Docks, like Eastern Massachusetts Irish is its own thing. And then there's like a generation or two, and then there's like and he's also an Irish citizen. And then there's like I have
there's like the me Irish.
Yeah.
Like somewhere way back. Like, why is the Ouija board the Ouija board shouldn't be showing up. I'm sorry, Cake. But
who is our South Asian chap?
No, our Dane is part of the Red Bull survivors.
Yes.
The Red Bull veterans. It shouldn't be showing up, so I don't know. So we're gonna have to fix that. That is not a you bet. I'm sorry, nothing happened. Here, we'll do one of these too. We will do a Pathfinder summon party.
Also, Cato has not played a dwarf bard, but
I know,
has
that's
played
hard to believe.
A dwarf fighter that sings.
That's fair. Aw.
Big noise. Now I got to put together a murder mystery. Let me make a note of that.
So yeah, David and I also enjoy running a lot of heists, largely because heists are excellent for 1 or 2 shots. If you are like, how do I? Because this is the thing. Bards are intimidating. Here's the thing. If you get especially a big group of personalities together for a 1-shot, you're going to have a hard time getting anything done because those big group of personalities are going to have so much fun, and they will probably just distract each other and you. So heists are a great way to be like, okay, so the 5 of you are at a tavern. You've been sitting here all day, and you're waiting to be summoned to talk to the big boss to go pull off this job. And then cool, now you're at the job, go do the job. It allows you as the storyteller to give them the moment to like team build and then be like, go. And once you put on that pressure, then it's much easier to do that kind of thing. Kate, what are you saying? Distracting is getting something done. This is entirely true. And look, David knows that I feel more than anyone that quite often a DM's job is to get out of the way of your players.
Absolutely.
Like I talk a lot about, I want to lob grenades at my players. I want to keep them on their toes. But also, if really good roleplay is going on, if people are being really creative and thinking outside of the box, I want to get out of the way of that. At the same time, it is a balancing act because there is nothing worse than reaching the end of a 3.5, or even 4-hour session and you haven't fought a big boss. You haven't wrapped up a story. You haven't actually concluded what you set out to do. Less of a problem for home games.
I'm good.
Okay.
I have this problem.
Which one?
So many. But it is an existential crisis whenever someone asks me what my favorite of something is, or even what like my top 5 are, or even what like my top 10 are, because like I always forget something that's really important to me, and then I get really mad about it later, and so I end up like brain freezes and it like churns, and like there's that squeaky awful grinding metal sound of my brain trying to churn out the things that I need.
But yes, one shots are a great way to kill off baddies who eat mayonnaise with a spoon. Thank you, Cake Tease. And yes, Kato, bards are very intimidating. I don't know if David has seen or if he has only heard about I have a literal spreadsheet of quips and one-liners and then very badly written limericks for my bard for Kinley. So when I play 5e, I will sit down and between sessions, I will write up little badly written limericks because Kinley is not good at writing things. Like Kinley is a very bad bard. Is bad at creating new things. And I would write those up and put them in a sheet so that when it came time to do a bardic inspiration, I could just read it off as opposed to having to improv that on the spot. I will improv their other lines, but I cannot make a limerick on the spot. I cannot do it.
I have a friend who is a professional musician and also loves D&D. And I have told him at some point I will make him play a bard at my table.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't get to cast spells without playing music. Like bardic inspiration or any sort of like the verbal component of every spell he casts has to be music from his instrument. And he's like, I'm down to do this whenever. And I was like, you say that. And we haven't had the opportunity to do so yet, but when I'm gonna stick a camera in there somewhere.
Send him VODs of Candace just doing full pony parodies.
Actually, he would be very, very impressed with Candace.
Mm-hmm. Look, Candace did Jolene in My Little Pony, and there's not much better. And no, you cannot say Jolene without my accent coming out.
Right.
It is impossible. I do not know how you say that name as a Yankee.
As a Northerner. And what was the other one? It's like W2 or something like that. But there are certain like phrases that a Southerner can't say without the Southern coming out. Do, do, do. I think my brain is starting to like regress to the mean.
Oh dear.
Or at least like getting back on track.
Okay.
Uh,
Have you said boyga enough?
Look,
I'm telling on you.
it has been 34 minutes. I saw a dumb meme yesterday, like just not funny at all. But it
It's
had
pretty funny.
the Mario music, and Kay and I had a meeting yesterday where we were working on stuff, um, and the whole time that song just played in my head, and then today all day, like in it, there's like a little kid who says "boyga," or no, boy good, boy good. Wow, it's gone now. Um, but you
I'm
said
gonna come
burger, and it was funny, and all day, it's just been just I've been saying burger all day. It has
He
been the
has.
battle cry.
And if he has not been saying it, he's been messaging it to me
Yes,
in text.
absolutely.
Say hello to Gilmore. He is
And
a
I
terror today.
had to send Kay the meme so that she could understand why I was like this.
But yes, have you, Candace? You've started a lot of games. You've started a lot of campaigns. You've started a lot of one shots. You've been through the God plane. What are some of the coolest, weirdest places that you have started a game or a session or a one shot? There
And
was a
also,
charity. Oh,
I was just going to say, while Candace comes up with that list, and they have an extensive, interesting, fascinating list, I there's a long list of places that I want to start a TTRPG. Like when Tilstra first posted the question, and then as we've been thinking about it since we came up with the topic. Wow, Gilmore. I'm sorry. I don't know if you could see on camera, but Gilmore headbutted Kay hard enough to like lurch her forward. It was just like whoop.
he says it's me time.
But like, I want to do a hospital,
Mhm.
and maybe like scary ghost game in hospital, or like not
Mhm.
hospital, but like plague camp. Like either something to do
Ooh,
with a
ooh,
war or like
ooh! I have an idea. That's a problem. Okay.
and I also want to do a shipwreck where like you were all on a boat, you wake up, the thing has been smashed, and actually we could do both. We could do a plague ship,
Mm.
um, and I think that would be fascinating. And I had another idea for a place, Pathologic 2. I will, I. Ribbon, I am starting to get the impression that you've played more games than me, and I need to tell you that is both impressive and intimidating, because Kay can tell you I've played a lot of video.
Mm-hmm.
I've played a lot of video games.
Candace says, in Witches, we started mid combat with an int, and each of us got to decide where and what our characters were doing. Mine, Nettie Flameheart, was flying around on her broom and looked for a non-violent option to introduce who she is. I love that. Also, go watch Candace and Witches.
Right. Hospital. Yeah, like a hospital ghost story would be a good idea. Like do something spooky in a hospital. It's in the boat with the shipwreck. There was another one that has come and gone.
Mm.
Cato says, one of my most memorable one-shots is still the Acquisition Incorporated one-shot I did at PAX 2016. It started by being shuffled into a conference room for training where we watched safety videos while we built character sheets. After training, we moved into a different main hall where we joined a DM for the one-shot. That's pretty
That's
cool.
cute. I do like, David knows I'm all about the dramatic. I do like scene changes. I mean, if you watch Godplane, you're aware that I'm like, oh, you're in a place that looks like this. Now you're in a completely different place. It looks like this. Well, now this place looks like this. So doing it physically is also really cool. Yeah, what have we?
I feel like we're missing one of the interesting fates. We each started at home, getting packed to go to magical university. We got to give context to our characters by explaining what our bedrooms look like and describing our familiars.
Cake. I woke up in a. I did a Pathfinder game once where we literally woke up in a goblin camp. Hey, JD. Welcome on in. We are sharing the most weird, wonderful, or interesting ways you started a game or a campaign. Yes, so again with the God Plane, while we did the season opener, the campaign opener, most of the games started with a cold open that was either a flashback to the lives of the characters before they entered the God Plane. So the audience and the players, not necessarily the characters, got more information about who these characters were. But then after we'd kind of gone through all of those, after a point, because the God Plane is a place of dreams and it has its own history and it wants that history to be known, we started doing cold open flashbacks where the player characters were inhabiting the dream bodies of heroes who had gone through the God Plane before. So it was flashbacks not of the player characters, but of characters who'd come before them, and it gave more information about the world and its lore. So that was really, really fun. I thought it was fun. I don't know. You'll have to ask the players. It was actually fun. JD says it wasn't the very start, but a streamed short run had them spend the night with some goblins. All the players and most NPCs were children, and the goblins all told goblin versions of the Three Little Pigs.
Oh, wow.
That's really cute. In Cowboys, we started with a chase scene with mounted cops. Every player describes their character as they were either driving, shouting, or taunting at the lawmen. Gee, what cowboy game is that?
Oh, yeah. So I know our Christmas games have started in unusual places. The Rainbow Roll, I believe one of those games started at a party.
One was at a party. So the one that I was in with Candace, which Connie Chang GM'd, it was at like a royal ball event. With the Christmas games, we've often started in the Adventurers Guild, with players kind of receiving their orders. And that one was there. That one was there. Trying to think over.
Because the Emerald Mine one started. I mean, it technically started at the Adventurers Guild, but then very quickly moved to right outside the.
Right. Outside of the Edison Emerald Mines.
Oh, man.
Candace, where did Flabbergasted start? We were all at a party, right? Parties, especially like masquerade parties, are a great place to start. I did just Desi Quest just came out. If you have not seen it, it is awesome. It is an all Desi crew with a TTRPG run by that bronze girl, Jasmine Bular. And oh, that's right, the library. You're correct. And that one started at a port one of the characters was getting off a boat and the others were there to meet him, and they did not meet as they were supposed to. If you've not seen Desi Quest, it is so fun. I encourage you to go watch it. It's on YouTube on Effin' Funny. Yes, the library. I forgot because we did like library and then it was like scavenger hunt to all these different places with the observatory and then the party. It ended at the party. It didn't start at the party.
Now I have the idea of starting a game at a lighthouse. This is good. Okay, so for those of you who may or may not know, in addition to obviously in the things in Chaotic Wholesome Presents, things either start with K or start with David. There's a lot of like start with David stuff that David is working to get off the ground. But in my defense and in our defense, we've had a lot going on, y'all. Like there's a whole lot that happens behind the scenes.
Can't wait to tell y'all what's going on either.
Right. But ooh-wee, is there a lot of stuff that's happening. And because of that, I'm not going to say all of it is fun, but most of the stuff that we do is fun. But the fun stuff that the modules that I'm working on ginning up, and I feel like that is like a vaguely racist term, but I'm not sure about it. Someone will have to do the homework on that. But there's like other sort of like nebulous ideas on the horizon for just like vague sort of like, I want to do this style of thing. So like, we've done a lot of heists. We've done horror games. We do like the zany charity one shots. There's a cat related thing that we're working on. There are other major like tentpole projects. And then I have a thing that's going to happen on a pirate ship, and I have a thing that's going to happen at a monastery, and I have a thing with a tower, with a wizard tower. Listen, I'm very excited about the wizard tower. I have not had any time to work on it, but Kay's like, "Oh my god, if you don't stop talking about this stupid fucking wizard tower."
No, that is not how Kay feels.
But there's more stuff like that's how this works. You always got more ideas. There's another thing where like the third act happens in front of this giant tree, and there's a woman and there's a vampire, and that like I'll tell you about that later, Kay. But like and so like this is really good because it's helping me sort of like coalesce the nebulous clouds of things into something more densely packed.
Cake says, I really like the idea of starting at a fancy dress / costume party, and you have to adventure in your costume for the first part of it. Yes, very fun saying like, hey, cool, all that fancy armor you got, if it's not costume-y, take it off.
Oh, man. One of my favorite things that I've done is... So, like in the home game that I run with Kay, there was this. One of my players, Kato was like, I need a fight pit. I need a gladiatorial fight pit because I'm gonna make a gladiator school / culinary academy. And I was like, Kay, this is what we're doing. I had to make a gladiator arena, and I made it into like this seat of like backdoor political intrigue, where all of the real decisions are made in this place, and the houses of government are just window dressing. Mm-hmm. Kato says, hearing you say that out loud makes me realize that Vita has big Tekken energy.
He do.
And that is so, well, man.
We're going to have to tell you about reaction to Vita's guest appearance at some point, Kato.
Oh yeah.
Not right now.
But so we do this thing, or you know, there's this the upper crust, the aristocrats and the politicians all meet in this fancy fight pit. And like, you know, it's very much like an arena, except it's underground. And there were like the people who are important and then the commoners are, and it's totally separate. But they had to go in and deal with the politicians and the aristocrats and the important people, which means they had to go get outfits. And not only did they, so like I foisted this torturous, awful, mean shopping episode onto my players and onto Kay's character specifically. And then they had to
personal attack.
And then they had to show up to this place with no armor on because they were all dressed fancy. And yeah, any excuse to get any of my players out of their armor or like take some of their stuff away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they weren't supposed to bring their weapons in, but one of our players who's an elf and is like, you know, this statuesque, lithe, gorgeous lady elf was like, oh no, the whip comes with me. And I was like, it's both a weapon but also not a weapon because it's used for other things, and no one's gonna stop you bringing the whip to places.
Best part of playing a Solarian in Starfinder is my moat turns into my sword, and it's always with me. Unless I roll 2 nat ones, and then my GM is allowed to mess with me. Kato says the one-shot concept I've always wanted to try was a collective consciousness one-shot where the players, the voices in the head of a character collectively making choices for them to guide the story. There is a one-shot, like there is a module for that. Someone has built that system. I can't remember the name of it, but it's there. Could you imagine the effed up stuff and role-playing in a Transformers costume? Look, I am here. I am here for it.
Absolutely.
And yes, David put so much effort into the fight pit. And also the mines. That campaign, there were just going to be like some mines. And then Vita's like, these mines are pathetic. And David's like, you're right. Let's talk about how they're pathetic.
Yeah, like these
Herman's
mines,
head
sucks.
Oh, no, that's not the name of it. Is that the name of it? There is one. There is a game where you are all voices in a head. I don't talk about it too much because it's one of those where I definitely could see it being considered insensitive. But with the right group, it could be okay. It was a TV show.
Yeah, it's like why I would never run a game in like an insane asylum or a mental institution. Like, I have never been on a grippy sock vacation. But my mother worked in a mental facility when I was younger, and so like during the summers, you know, childcare expensive, so I got to go to work with mom, and so mom would just push me into the ward with the children's ward with all the kids who were struggling with their mental health issues, and then I got to hang out with them.
And you fit right in.
I did fit right in. But nothing gives you perspective faster than like juxtaposing that with reading like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or watching one of those like Victorian era shows where they haul women off to where they're like, women have hysteria, that they haul them off to the institutions, which are just like prisons but worse. What did Gilmore do?
I picked him up and he saw the string on my hoodie and he tried to eat it and he fell. And he caught himself. He's not hurt, but he just like completely committed to the bit of like, I'm gonna kill this string, bam. Yes, exactly, Candace.
That was a silver lining. But a lot of, and the opiates. There were so many opiates.
Sir.
But, and so like, you know, there are a lot of like awful, terrible places where it's like, why? There's no reason. You don't need to tell a story here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like even like a jail or a prison, I feel like you really got to be careful with how you portray people and what sort of stories you tell there, because as much as I'm an advocate for prison reform, wow, he got
He
you.
is wild. I'm getting
Um,
hugs, y'all.
um, but you have to be careful because, and like to circle back to like the Dark Knight, and Joker did the thing with like the two boats, and one of the boats had the trigger, and it was packed full of convicts, and despite all the people in prison or with criminal records or awaiting trial or whatever who don't deserve to be there and who don't deserve to be there as long as they're there are also people who deserve to be there, like you did a thing and you got to go away for a while, if for no other reason than for public safety. And I feel like it's very easy to either like lump everybody together and be like, "Oh, you're all bad people," and then whatever bad things happen to you is fine. Or all these people are here unjustly, and therefore yada yada. And there's this nuance to the conversation of like, there are people who deserve to be in prison, but they're also still people and should be treated humanely. But that is neither here or there. That's a total like departure. But there are a lot of places where like you won't catch me starting a game in them because there are nuances and ramifications to it that I either am unwilling to navigate or don't feel the need to like do all that effort. Like, what kind of story could I start at like a abandoned women's shelter that I couldn't start somewhere else?
Yep.
Whereas the Promised Neverland has to happen at an orphanage, and good. That is a dark show.
Gilmore. That is a cattail. He is wild, y'all. He just wants attention. But yes,
Hamilton
I actually
Beach became popular. I am unfamiliar with Hamilton Beach.
I once saw a one-shot. It was a one-shot that the GM opened with a cold open. It was a cold open, and he's all like, the 4, 5, 6 of you, however many, are running through the woods wearing basically burlap sacks. And they're like, wait, so I don't have my armor? And he's like, uh-uh. And the druid's like, wait, so I don't have my companion animal? He's like, uh-uh. And they're like, what the heck? And they're running around, and they're trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And then they run into a thing, and they realize as they, like, and then it cuts back, and he's like, as you all entered the city for this festival, you were given a flashback of the events that resulted in this festival. So he transported them back in time, put them into the bodies of the people who founded this festival. And they're like, and now we're all here. Welcome to the festival. After that terrifying opening of you have no weapons, you have no armor, and a dragon is chasing you.
Oh, it's like Hitachi. I'm sorry. I'm referring to chat. That's how the Hamilton Beach Company became popular. They make home appliances and personal ones, apparently. Today they make microwaves and blenders, but the company started by making plug-in personal devices for female hysteria. Or hysteria.
You're running through the woods, and then you hear him come up behind you.
It's Shia LaBeouf. Oh, man.
But yes, Kato, you've had some interesting ones. Do you have any other fun starting places? Any unexpected opening game twists? Because it is very fun to like be like, okay, look, we're at the tavern, we're gonna chat, and we're gonna go on an adventure, right? We're at the Adventurers Guild, we're gonna get our assignment, we're gonna go. But it can be very fun to just be like, well, that isn't starting the way I thought it would. Oh, now I'm super paying attention. And we're not going to go too deep into it right now because I do think there is an art to it, and we're going to do probably going to do an episode on this after David and I have time to gather our thoughts on it. But there is a great value in cold opens, especially for streamed games, because if you have sponsors, if you are doing giveaways, if people know there's a cold open and I'm going to miss the cold open, I'm going to miss what happens. It's not going to be 20 minutes of, hi, everyone, I am this person, and I can show up at any point. If it starts with action and then it gets into the story, people are going to show up right when it starts. And that means when you say we are sponsored by so-and-so, you're going to have more viewers, which sponsors really like. So not only does it draw the audience in, there's good reasons to do it as well. Kato says, contrary to popular belief, I've probably played D&D the least out of everyone in this chat. Most of the games I've been involved in have been multi-year-long campaigns. Yeah, I mean, all your gameplay is incredibly memorable, Kato, as David said. Cold open. Everyone starts locked in a freezer and have to escape.
I am going to write a game where you are all corpses in a morgue.
I mean,
and a necromancer posing as a coroner brings you all back.
I'm into it. Okay, Tazik.
Oh. Listen. It's not going to be that kind of necromancer.
Mm-hmm. Hashtag not all necromancers.
The number of people who are just on board for being a corpse.
I know.
They're like, listen, it's zombie time.
And he's like, welcome on in.
Zombie time.
Yeah, Kato says, longest running game I've ever been part of. Cold opened with us being in a dream that they went on until the party wiped. And then once the party wiped, we all woke up at the same inn. Oh, that's cool. The dream was a prelude to a future dungeon that we actually completely avoided. If that's not the most player thing I've ever heard.
I'm not going to try to make corpses sexy. Like, that is not on brand for Chaotic Wholesome Presents.
There was a very sexy mummy in Gabe's game on Dimension 20.
I mean, I've seen some people wearing nothing but bandages, and I could definitely see that. Yes. Gabe. Gabe. I'm not trying to make corpse. Then why tempt me with a dwarf bard? Everybody wakes up as corpses with a...
David is literally building campaign notes right now.
Yep. Disguised as a coroner. So I'm going to have to try really hard to avoid Saw references because I may have watched 9 Saw movies in under 2 weeks.
David, this might be a Pathfinder campaign because in Pathfinder, you can play... Remember the Flesh Wrap? Which, I'm sorry, there is an actual playable race in Pathfinder called Flesh Wrap. It is a horrible name, but that's what it is named, that you could play. Also, you can play a skeleton, and skeletons have, I think, 10 resistance to piercing and slashing damage because they just bones. They just bones. You gotta bludgeon them.
I mean, fair. Okay, I was typing this, but there are 10 Saw films. And I'd seen, I think, 5 of them. And then the 10th one got released like last month. And I was like working up to watching the 10th. um, Skelly Jellies. Uh, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna rewatch the ones that I haven't seen in a long time, and then I'm gonna watch the rest of them. And so I sat down and I watched 9 Saw movies over the course of 14 days, and I still have to see the 10th.
That's a lot of Saw in a small amount of time.
It is a lot of Saw, but listen, Jigsaw is daddy, and no one can convince me otherwise. And I will say officially that the first, and I know this isn't a horror movie podcast, but the first 3 Saw films is one of the greatest love stories ever told. Fight me. Anyway, continue.
Chris says, "Ain't nobody gonna rip us apart."
Oh my God. What does a skeleton bard use? A trombone. Ah!
Oh. So yes, I need you all to know that from this point on, if we ever do open casting calls or for playtests in the Discord, it is not your imagination when you hear, "Do you want to play a game?" Hey, Mr. Live Producer, welcome on in. Did the thing go off? I don't think the thing went off. I've got to figure out why your thing is not going off, David. Mr. Live Producer is incredible and has been doing so much with us with StreamerBot. He coded up the Pathfinder find a party or a simple party. Mr. Live Producer is awesome. Go give him a peek-see.
I will have to figure out how that D20 redeem works.
I can show you how.
Well, because that way we could build a D4, D6, D8, D10, D12.
Easily. Super easy.
Specifically for pun damage.
Oh, we can just do roll pun damage. It could be a command and it can randomize. We can have some fun with that.
But yes, Kato, there are 10 Saw films. I have seen 9 of them, and I could do an entire 2-hour rant about the Saw films.
But not today.
But not today. No, not today.
So we have had a couple more people join chat. We are talking about the weird, wonderful, and most memorable places that you have started a campaign or a session or a game. So if you have any that you would like to share, we have talked about everyone meeting at a funeral and finding out that they're all half siblings because their dad was the horny bard who died. We've talked about starting in a void of nothingness with 4 strangers whom you don't know standing over the body of a woman, and you're all speaking common. You can't understand each other. Talked about starting it in jail cells. We've talked about starting it in high schools. We've started with the cute little vignettes of everyone's little backstories. Unless Saw gets a TTRPG book, then have at it. Exactly. As David goes to the Googs.
I have to ask. Someone asked Saw a tabletop RPG. Because it does lend itself to making a board game of some sort.
Yes, the consent, the lines and veils, the consents and check-ins for that game would be.
There was a video game?
Okay, David, we have to focus. We're not going down a saw hole today.
No, we're not. A saw hole. Gross.
I know.
Yeah. No. Gross. Terrible. Bad. No. There are 2 actually. No. It is verboten.
Okay. We have two topics we have to actively avoid. Saw and centaur accessibility. Now we know. Focus, penguin in a costume. Exactly.
And boigas.
Boigas. Oh, gods. This is where we are.
A big thank you to Kay to trying to keep us on the fucking rails while David has been in outer space and Narnia at the same time for the past hour and a half.
Rex says, my long-running campaign had players split into 2 separate groups, each in separate carriages. The 2 groups met when bandits stopped them. That's fun. Actually, that reminds me, in Chalice, which is a game that was on the initiative order, but future TBD, but we are still planning to play. The first season started place, but the second season, many characters had cycled out, and we had new players coming in and new characters coming in, and it's actually split into 2 games. So I play every other session because Group 1 is a group that is on the run from the law, and Group 2, which is my group, we are wardens, and we are trying to track down these people. So those can be very, very fun. It's just very weird because we do session 1, session 2, and then we take a week off because the poor GM is doing back-to-back weeks, which means that I play every 3 weeks. 1 week on, 2 weeks off, 1 week on, 2 weeks off. It's very...
Yes, every 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Hurts my head.
Oh, you started in a bistro for Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, and this is the thing is I think each group now is 4 players, or maybe one of them has 5. I don't exactly know what's going on in the other group because I'm not allowed to watch, because I'm not allowed to know where the people we're hunting are going. And it's like the GM's like, sooner or later we're all going to meet up, and I'm like, that's going to be a very big. It's going to be. How do you even fit that many people on an overlay? Yeah. Like, it can be done, but that's just a lot of people.
Okay, so if you ran combat, you get everybody like everybody on one team on one overlay. Then you get everybody on another team on another overlay, and then you just switch back and forth. Or scene, not overlay, scene. But like, do one scene and then you do that. That's so much. That's so much.
It's a lot.
I'm never gonna do that. Like, what I do love doing is having different people's games affect each other.
Yes.
And so, like, with the home game, a random one shot I ran with Kay had repercussions for the home game that we're playing. And I'm running a home game right now because we're testing some things, and that's going to have repercussions with the games that are eventually streamed. And with another thing that we're working on, Godplane plays a very tiny role in that. And then also, like, I have NPCs that, for a very good reason, show up in different campaigns. And then there's an overarching reason.
I don't have any of those. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. And there's an overarching reason why those NPCs and some of Kay's NPCs all show up in different places. And when you watch the thing that we're doing next year, you can start to piece together why these characters are all showing up in these places.
It's all chaos. It's all chaos. There's
right.
no plan. Don't read into things. Don't read into things. But yes, okay, here's my challenge to you, chat, because we are reaching the winding down part. I would like to ask you, what is the most wild, most fun way you would like to start a campaign, or you could think to start a campaign? Like, what is the thing that you would like to do? David has seen, I tried to do a thing, and it is actually the thing that evolved into Godplane. So I never got to do this exact thing because I was no longer doing it the way I wanted. But I literally wanted to start a game where the character, currently in the morgue as a corpse, Cake is on board. I wanted to do a game where it opens it opens with the character climbing. It's a snowy field. They climb a thing to try and see like life, to try and see farmable ground, to try and see beasts they can hunt, and it's just an ice field as far as they can see, and it's like you are witnessing the death of the last sentient beings on this entire planet. Like, the ice age is coming, this planet is dying, and this is the moment where they realize it.
Walking down the street and Truck Coon comes barreling out of control. Um, all aboard the Isekai Express.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that reminds me of a story I was working on a long time ago. So, Kay, I need to talk to you about how we can turn that into a TTRPG thing.
Oh boy. Oh, I know the game that I want. I know how I want to start a game for David.
Oh boy.
You're walking. It's a quiet day in town. You're walking, and all of a sudden, people come running the opposite direction.
Yep, you're going to need a con saving throw because you're going to be doing some running.
That is one of David's favorite stories about how, like, if I'm walking somewhere and people are running the other way, I'm not asking. I'm running. I'm running with them. I know better.
And what's funny is, like, some comedian made a joke about this years ago, and I've always found it funny. But then I started thinking about it, and over the course of my life, including, like, I think this year, I've been out in public and people have, like, taken off running. I'm just like, nope. I'd gone to the Dungeons and Dragons movie this year. My buddy and I went, and we're in not South LA, but like we're in a part of LA that I don't usually go to, where there's a movie theater, and there are a bunch of people who look like me, who are much younger, like, you know, teenagers, early 20-somethings, that just start taking off in random directions. And my buddy who I'm with is like, we're walking in one direction and we see people running from that direction, and he just looks at me and we share a look, and then we both turn around at the same time and start walking in the other direction. And then cops start going the direction that we were walking away from, and so we turn off the road where the cops are coming down so we're not seen by them. And I was just like, you know what? This is why we're friends, because we didn't have to have an entire conversation about it. I didn't have to convince you of this. You were just like, nope, and then we were gone. It was perfect. It was delightful.
Mr. Live producer says the whole group battling the big bad evil guy and then failing, and then a god comes around and says, well, that's not supposed to happen, and resets the world.
Yeah, and my thought is, what happens? What if the reverse happens and you win, and the god shows up and is like, that's not how this is supposed to go down.
Yeah, Zykrem says that's how we get Final Fantasy.
Yeah, we must kill God. Look, one of the things that I find most charming about not just like Final Fantasy, but JRPG games, is that it's always like, fix the fountain. The baker needs more flour. Go fetch, and that's how the game starts. And then 176 hours later, it's like you see that god that created this entire universe and lords over this planet with.
Kick him in the dick.
Yeah, you gotta kick him right in the ankle. You gotta bust him right in his mouth. Let's go.
Was it 10? The Sin God? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, 10 is where you had to get where you had to go kill the god that was a natural disaster every 10 years that was also now partly your dad.
That was a whole, yeah.
Except the main character may not have existed.
Cake says, I want to start in a modern RPG at an anime comic convention. Let's see some nerds do something real. Also, I am nerds.
Listen, I've been to too many conventions where I looked around and I was like, if there was any sort of like real emergency that broke out here, we're all doomed.
I sometimes cosplay. I used to cosplay a lot more. I did Blink from Days of Future Past, which is actually this thing here, this is all that remained of the costume. But I did martial arts for many years. So I was in like the platform boots with the heels, all in black with all of this beaded, the wig. And everyone's like, yeah, that's fine. And then I can do kicks. So I did a high kick. Like I was standing there and someone's like, do you do poster? And I'm like, sure. Like, I'll tell you when 3, 2. And then I did the high kick. So they got the photo of me, and I turn around and there's suddenly like a half a dozen cameras just like, do it again.
Only rivaled by Tekken bowling.
Blitzball was a thing.
I think I missed a YouTube comment.
Oh.
Hey, look, we're live on YouTube.
We are. Also, we are 2 subscribers away from YouTube. So thank you all. From 200 on YouTube. Thank you all so much. Did we miss a YouTube comment? What was it?
It doesn't backload the chat, which is frustrating. But maybe
it should.
I can, or maybe I didn't miss a YouTube comment. I don't know, man. This is complicated. Tekken bowling, only rivaled by DOA beach volleyball, where they took a fighting game and made it into a volleyball game. Yeah, primals are considered gods in 14, 12, and I think 8.
I love the collection of nerds
Ooh.
I have amassed around me. Thank you all.
Riku.
Most fighting games are volleyball games where the opponent is the ball. Look. All I have to say, like, there was Final Fantasy X, and I'm not going to go into my feels on Final Fantasy X. That's fine. There was Final Fantasy X-2, which was a naming choice, and there was there were choices made in that, and don't get me wrong, it was really like they were really cute. The outfit changes, like I get it, that appealed to group, and that's fine. I had problems with the scan. If you don't know the story of the scan 2 and scan 3 in Final Fantasy X, we will go into that another time. But had they made a Final Fantasy X 3, I am convinced that the combat system would have been based around pillow fights.
Yeah, fair. Super fair. Super fair. The outfits were great. The outfits were top notch.
The outfits were very great.
My only complaint about 10-2 is how much time you had to invest before each of the jobs was matched out so that you could then play dress up with other characters. Because I wanted to stick the gun thing onto Lulu, and it took me like 70 hours.
Lulu's outfits are just like Final Fantasy X was not my favorite by any means, but Lulu was awesome. All right. Final thoughts on starting a campaign, starting a session, cold opens, any really cool ones that you have seen that you would like to call out, any dream ways to start it. Now is the time to type them up.
Ribbon, you had me going for an entire half second. So Ribbon Anza says, did you know they actually had a draft for X3 and Yuna brought Titus back to life, then he stepped on a mine and died. I still want to grow up to be Auron from Final Fantasy X, because that man is cooler than the other side of the pillow. This man is just in a bathrobe and sunglasses marauding around the country.
Chris says that actually happened. It was a novella.
Yikes.
Prompt series.
It was a bomb.
Prompt like generator, a game series, and an anime trope. Makes note.
Oh my god.
It was a bomb that looks like a blitzball? Have the players as actors in a play. Clueless, the BB, e.g. shows up and challenges them to a fight.
I mean, isn't that how Guardians of the Galaxy ended?
Basically. You're not wrong. But
I
yes.
I am mystified at how many memes they packed into Guardians of the Galaxy, but that is neither here nor there.
But yes, when in doubt, I always say you're going when starting a game, when starting a campaign, go one of two ways. Either do that really cozy individual character intro where everyone's gathering and sharing, like how is everyone coming together, or throw the grenade in the middle of a fight. You're all enjoying your day. Everything's bad. Here comes the dragon. Like, either really do it the home game, slow, cozy, fun, or do the like, buckle up, here we go. But regardless of which one you do, always make sure that early-ish on, you do leave time for your characters to connect, to talk about who they are, to figure out who everyone else they're with is and why they care about these people. Because if you don't let them do that early on, you're not going to get those really solid bonds, and it's not going to work as well. Oh, goodness. Okay. Who wants to talk Final Fantasy? Chris could talk them all day. It wasn't an opening, but there was an improvised play in Witches for anyone into that nerdery. Yes, go watch Witches. Or the players do a play, and the Ember Island players from Avatar, and then the players play the game in the flashback. That's always fun. The actors thought it was all fake until it wasn't. Was how that showed up. David, get in a Friday stream, and he will spend 3 hours talking about Final Fantasy.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. Or if you really distract him in a coding stream.
Yeah.
Cake loves anything involving goblins or moth people. Make more moth people so Cake can play a moth person in your game.
I will make a note of that.
All right.
And Cake wants to be a gooey corpse. I'm also...
I mean, I don't know that she
corpse.
specifically said a gooey corpse, just a refrigerated corpse.
I'm confident that gooey was mentioned because it icked me. It icked me.
Thank you for hanging out, Vivian.
Scroll.
So we have to find someone to raid. If you have... Oh, Cake did say gooey. If you have a suggestion of who we should raid, shout it out. Pretty please. Otherwise, David and I will find someone. As always, thank you all for hanging out with us. This was a very fun chat. And we learned some things about Saw. Or at least I did. Some of y'all probably already knew it. Thank you so much to everyone who came and hung out with us today. This was so great. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you to Cake Tease for the redeems and the resub. Thank you to Mr. Live Producer for coming and hanging out. And all of our awesome people. Mallory, Rex, Zykram. Oh, goodness, we got a lot today. Rex Verde, Chris, Kato. I said Mr. Live Producer, I think. Ribonanza, Kato, who I think I already said. I'm going back to... Yes, thank you all for hanging out. It is always a treat. Matt, thank you for hanging out. It is always a treat. You always make my evening better, getting to hang out. And again, we are 2 subscribers away on YouTube. Subscribing on YouTube is free. Give us a follow. Thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a follow and a like. Thank you so much. And David, who you can raid?
I have no idea.
Vanna is playing Coral Island, and I know. Okay, that's what we will do then. All right, then we will head on over there. Thank you to those of you watching on YouTube. Thank you, everyone on Twitch. We have some really exciting stuff that we get to announce soon. I can't wait to share. Find us here every Tuesday. We're doing this pretty much every Tuesday. Tomorrow you can find me at Goblin Cave TV with Mr. Live Producer playing the circus game, where I am a My Little Pony tiefling acrobat. I am not playing games on Thursday because it is U.S. Thanksgiving. Find David streaming on Friday, playing Disco Elysium. I'm going to be Saturday and Sunday playing Kinley over at Tavernaw, which is a Girl by Moonlight game. And next Friday is PAX Unplugged, and I will see you all there. We have goodie bags to give out. We are so excited to see you. Cake and I are going to be on panels. I know Candace is going to be on like 4 panels because they're a badass. Matt is going to be there. I've lost track of who else. Rex, I think, is going to be there. Yes, Rex is going to be there. So hope to see you there. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for supporting. Be kind to yourselves. Be excellent to others. And we will see you all next time.